Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. My name is Peter Loshak. Today is Friday, April 20th, and we have UFC Fight Night 128 coming up this weekend in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Of course, we're going to break this main card down, as we always do, with our regular returning guest, Andreas Hale. Andreas Hale, last card was classic. We nailed everything except for your admitted, a weakness for betting on veterans in decline as big underdogs that you think still has a shot. And in last week's video, you said that it might be a certain like psychological weakness that you have when it comes to handicapping MMA. Other than that, though, we swept the board last card.
Yeah, we did. But yeah, like you said, I'm done. I'm done with these Asian veterans against these up and coming new blood. I can't do it anymore. But everything else, look, we nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. No shame in winning everything except for one fight. You know what I'm saying, Andreas Hale? But also, you always want to stay vigilant about your handicapping. Whatever your tendencies might be. Always stay vigilant. All right, so let's see what we got here for UFC Fight Night 128. Definitely some interesting fights, right? The main event: Edson Barboza and Kevin Lee. Both these guys are top 10 contenders. Both coming off of losses, and of course, Lee's loss maybe. I mean, Barboza, of course, has been a top 10 contender for a long time. Lee has not really fought any top 10 guys and defeated them except for Chiesa. And maybe Lee's last loss was a little bit unforgivable because, of course, it was a little bit forgivable, because, of course, he did have the staph infection. He fought anyway, and he lost, whereas Barboza really did take a pretty solid pounding in his last fight to Khabib. And, so maybe because Lee's last fight the loss was a little bit more forgivable, maybe we give him an edge here. What do you think?
Actually, you're right. Barboza took a hellacious beating at the hands of Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Kevin Lee, the staph infection may make this forgivable. The other thing to look at here is Kevin Lee still has a lot to learn, and that's in a good way. He hasn't plateaued yet. His skills are still getting better. His hands are getting better. His wrestling has always been sound. Whereas Barboza, I think he's plateaued. I think we've seen the best that Barboza has to offer. So Kevin Lee is the bigger upside here. Barboza took the worst beating, so it leads me to believe that in this fight that Kevin Lee should definitely have the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me, obviously, Barboza's going to want to, get a finish here. Maybe if it goes longer, that might give an advantage to Lee. And I'm looking at this one. I mean, it's kind of a broken record, but in a huge fight like this, where both fighters are coming off a loss, they're going to have respect for one another. And I'm seeing here, it's scheduled for 5 rounds. Total is just 2.5. The over minus 145, the under plus 125. Kind of the same old handicapping factor that I use so many times in MMA. Two fighters, big fight, big respect for each other. Why do we not like the over here? Is the over a great play?
The over is absolutely a great play. I mean, Barboza, he just took a beating at the hands of the lightweight champion and the guy who's undefeated, and he lasted 5 rounds. I don't think Kevin Lee's going to be able to finish him. On the flip side of that, Kevin Lee, yes, he lost to Tony Ferguson and got stopped, but Kevin Lee's proven to be pretty durable as well. And if Edson Barboza doesn't catch you with a highlight reel kick or some kind of highlight reel knee, which I think Lee's going to be totally preprepared for, he's not going to finish him either. So this is definitely a fight that has going the distance written all over it, or at the very least it should go over the 2.5 rounds.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if either of these guys won by decision, although I feel like if we knew beforehand that it was going to go to decision, I feel like that probably means that Lee is more likely than not to win, and if we knew beforehand that it was going to end early, that it's more likely than not that Barboza was the winner. Would you agree with that or not really?
No, I would absolutely agree with that. Edson Barboza has the ability to catch anybody at any time and put them to sleep, where Kevin Lee's a guy who kind of drags you into deep waters. He has great ground and pound, but he's not typically a highlight reel finisher. He finished Chiesa, but that was super controversial in that fight. But aside from that, he takes guys down and he kind of works them over with the ground and pound. So your assessment is spot on.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to make this was an official pick. I was thinking it would be more like a 3.5 minus 165 kind of line on the over, but it's only 2.5 rounds minus 145. Of course, an early stoppage by Barboza, or either of these guys, but particularly by Barboza, would not be a shock. I'm going to make over 2.5 rounds an official pick for me. Andreas Hale, do you want to make an official pick on the total or side or prop?
I'm going to go with the over 2.5 rounds as well. I like Lee, but the line where it's at makes me a little iffy because, like you said, Kevin Lee hasn't fought elite competition like Barboza has. But I think this fight's definitely going to go over, so I'm going to stick with that.
All right, and just for anyone who's thinking about betting, who really wants to bet the side and is still trying to figure it out, if we gave you a free play right now at the current odds, Lee minus 155, Barboza plus 135, which would you take?
I take Kevin Lee. Like I said, the upside is there. I think he's a tremendous wrestler, and I think the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight for Edson Barboza took a lot out of him.
Right. Okay, now let's move on to another interesting fight. Cub Swanson against Frankie Edgar, and of course, Frankie Edgar knocked the F out in his last fight and making a relatively quick return. And of course, it's been all over the media discussion about is Edgar making a mistake here? He's saying that, in his opinion, he's not. What else is he going to say? He's saying that he feels like he's a little bit of a different fighter from other fighters who have made that mistake in the past. Maybe not. We did see that happen recently with Bisping, right? After that, Bisping lost to GSP and then came back very soon against Gastelum. I was all over Gastelum in that one. I thought that was a big mistake by Bisping. And of course, Bisping got knocked out in the first round. So I guess let's just focus first on that factor here. Frankie Edgar, do you think he's coming back? That's a big factor here for you, that he's coming back too soon, or is it a non-issue?
It would be a big factor if he was facing somebody that he'd never faced before. But he ran over Cub Swanson the last time they fought. So I think that in his mind, he looked at the fight and he wanted to get back in there, and they offered him Cub Swanson. He said, hell, I already beat this guy once and finished him in the 5th round. I could probably do it again. Otherwise, I would question him returning.
Yeah. So as Andreas said, this is a rematch. They did fight earlier once in their careers, and Edgar got a big win, but that was 4 years ago, right? Both of these fighters have developed and improved since then. Edgar, again, coming back 7 weeks after getting knocked out, a big favorite here, currently minus 235. Swanson on the other side is plus 195, and the market really expects this fight to go the distance. It's scheduled for 3 rounds, and right now at 5 dimes, the over 2.5 rounds, minus 345. The under 2.5 rounds is plus 285. Now, I don't know. I mean, Swanson is probably going to fix some of his mistakes that he made in the first fight. He kind of committed to his punches a little bit too much in that fight. If Edgar is affected from the knockout, still being affected, and if he is in fact coming back too soon, he might get knocked out. He might get finished, and if so, maybe Swanson, as inside the distance, which would be a big underdog line, is worth a flyer or not. Andreas Hale, what's your opinion?
I looked at this line. I thought the same thing. It said, if anything crazy were to happen, it would be in this type of fight. With Cub Swanson's going to be a little bit better prepared. Frankie Edgar, we don't know how shot he is from that fight. Mentally, It could affect him. With the line being the way it is, it makes me think this fight could go under. Look, Frankie Edgar's not a prolific early finisher. Neither is Cub Swanson. However, given the circumstances surrounding this fight, given Edgar's fast return, given the fact that they both fought each other and are familiar, as it's been 4 years, but they're kind of the same fighter. They do the same things well that they did before. Cub kind of plugs some holes. Frankie he chugs along. He'll take you down or he'll just outstrike you. So that being said, it's highly likely that we might get an early finish here. Frankie could get caught, or Frankie could try to go in there and make short work of Cub Swanson and make a statement. I think both guys are looking to make a statement here. And the under being with the line where it's at, I'm not going to make it a lock, but I'm going to make it a heavy lean to go with the under on this fight.
Yeah, I mean, plus 285. I mean, at what point would they, if this was plus 500 on under 2.5 rounds, I mean, we could see a finish here. Interestingly, Swanson plus 195 to win, and the under 2.5 rounds is plus 285. But Swanson inside the distance is just plus 434 at 5 dimes. So clearly, the market thinks that if Swanson wins, it's more likely than not to be inside the distance. And that's what I'm thinking as well. I'm thinking the most likely outcome here probably is Edgar by decision. Obviously, Edgar a huge favorite. The over is 2.5 minus 345, and Edgar by decision is minus 150 with, I don't know, maybe that's worth a shot. Is there any way Edgar gets a finish here?
Again, it's possible because he finished them last time. Yes, it was 5 rounds. But the thing about Cub Swanson, he's been in a lot of wars. And, both him and Frankie both were finished by Brian Ortega. Cub Swanson was in a hellacious war with the Korean Superboy. And, he barely got by Artem Lobov. So maybe he's slowing down. Maybe those wars are finally catching up to him, and Frankie Edgar can take full advantage here. So it's quite possible. So this fight can go so many different ways, but with the line, like I said, the way it is, I have to lean towards the under here, but I just can't make it official pick because that quick turnaround bothers me a little bit.
Yeah. All right, so I would agree with you. My leans at the current odds would be Cub Swanson at plus 195, a lean to the under at 2.5 plus 285, and ironically, a lean to a Frankie Edgar by decision at minus 150. But those are all just leans, ways I'm feeling feeling this fight out. None of them I bet yet, obviously, and none of them I'm really sure that I want to take a shot with. Is this going to be a pass for you as far as an official pick is concerned, Andreas Hale?
Yeah, it's going to be a pass. I'll make the lean on the under, and I might make an official pick closer to the fight night. But right now, it's a real lean on the under.
Okay, and then we have 4 other fights on the main card. Some interesting ones. Sherman against Willis. That's a heavyweight fight with Willis, obviously a big favorite, and again, heavyweights with huge punching power in their hands. That one could see an early finish. Fun fight between fringe contenders with Dave Branch and Thiago Santos, and then Jemaine Sterling coming off of the first stoppage of his career, going up against a Welshman, Brett Johns, who's undefeated. And this should also be an interesting fight. The odds are exactly even now, -110 on both sides for both of these guys. Another fight where the market is strongly expecting the fight to go the distance, to go to the cards. 3-round scheduled fight, over 2.5 rounds is -320. And then Miller and Hooker. Are there any plays on any of those fights that you like? And maybe we can talk specifically about the Sterling fight, because even if there's no bet to be made on that fight, Sterling's a fun fighter, and that should be an interesting competitive fight, certainly based on the odds. What's your take on that fight, and are there any other picks that you want to give here, Andreas Hale, from the other 4 fights?
Sterling and Johns is the one that I've been eyeballing. Yes, Johns is undefeated, and yes, Sterling is coming off a knockout loss, but Sterling lost to Marlon Moraes, who was a hell of a striker. And Brett Johns is not a striker. He's a grappler. And Aljamain Sterling is actually a very good and capable grappler. So I actually like Aljamain Sterling to give Brett Johns his first loss in that fight. And that's the fight that I'm eyeballing for, probably going the distance. What is the line on the over in that fight?
I'm sorry?
What's the line in the over on the Johnson Sterling?
The over, I don't think you're going to want to take this one, Andreas Hale. Over 2.5, -320. But if you like Sterling and you really think the fight is going to go the distance, which I would agree with, Sterling by decision +153, not so bad.
Yeah, it isn't bad. But I would just go straight up with Sterling here because, one of these guys could make a mistake. Sterling has shown he's great on the ground. He only has a hard time with guys who could out-wrestle him. And that's going to be very difficult. I don't see Brett Johns necessarily doing that. I think it'll be a great fight, but I just really like Aljamain Sterling here. So that is my pick out of those other main card fights. Okay,
Aljamain Sterling. Currently, the odds are -110. I would love to take a play on this fight going the distance, but going the distance is -280. And I might get a little bit greedy, just a little bit here, and agree with you, but take the Sterling by decision prop at +153. And that's what I will do. I'll make that one an official pick. Aljamain Sterling by decision at +153. Andreas Hale just taking Sterling any which way, currently at -110 at 5 dimes. And no official picks on the other 3 fights, Andreas?
No, I looked really close to this Thiago Santos-David Branch fight. And the thing about Thiago is, he's a great finisher, but Branch is a two-division world champion in World Series of Fighting. He has a great chance to win the fight here, but I'm going to stay away.
Okay, so Andreas Hale is, let's see, the picks, we're both going to be on the over 2.5 rounds in Barboza and Lee. We're both going to pass on the Swanson-Edgar fight, although Andreas Hale would strongly be leaning to the under 2.5 at that, a huge underdog line of +285. I would totally agree with that. And I would also be leaning to Swanson at +195, but less so. I think that the bigger value is maybe do a hedge with like under 2.5 at +185 and hedge that one with Edgar by decision at -150. Those are just things that I'm thinking about. And we're both liking Aljamain Sterling. Andreas Hale's going to take him to win at -110. I'm taking him by decision, +153. Andreas Hale, great breakdowns as always. We'll talk to you again very soon.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.